أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to session 13 of our Eschatology podcast. And what I want to do, inshallah, is I want to continue building on what we discussed in the last two sessions on the concept of time. And we mentioned that the human being as a being is a being that has been sent into this stream of time. So every human being has entered into time at a certain marker and then goes through his life for a duration of time and then leaves at a certain time. So this is now where we focus our attention in this duration of your existence in this temporal state, which is now there for a purpose, meaning there's a reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent the human being into this world, into a temporal state of existence. And that reason is ultimately to have a test. It is a test upon the human being, and then this test is what enables the human being to find success. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Kahf, إِنَّا جَعَلْنَا مَا عَلَى الْأَرْضِ زِينَةً لَهَا لِنَبْلُوَهُمْ أَيُّهُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. We have made and established everything that is, or whatever is on this earth, as a zina, as an adornment, as an illusion, as a diversion, as a distraction, so that we can test which of these creatures that we have sent therein now, which of them is best indeed, ahsanu amala, which of them can succeed by rising from the turbulences of this world and rise to a state of enlightenment. So everything that the human being is subjected to insofar as this realm is concerned is a test, it's a trial and a tribulation. So this is what we want to look at then. What is trial and tribulation? Because one of the paramount pieces of this eschatological age, as we are approaching the final hour, one of the prime pieces is Fitna. And that Fitna comes from all these manifestations that will take place in this realm during this age. So there's the Fitna that will be enacted by the Dajjal. There is the Fitna that will be enacted by Ya'juj and Ma'juj. There is the Fitna of Dabbatul Ard. There is the Fitna of the Dukhan, the smoke. There is all this Fitna that will take place. What is Fitna in its own regard? And what is it insofar as our age is concerned? One of the things that I've noted with many Muslims is this perception that the Fitna is a physical thing. It is a physical thing that you will have to encounter, that only affects the physicality of your being. Things like war, things like disease, famine, and so on and so forth. That this is what the Fitna really is. And so everyone is in a modus of preparing themselves in how best to navigate this Fitna, how best to deal with it. So you'll find Muslims who are vigilant in this case, and it's a right course of action. I'm not criticizing that, but Muslims will make these preparations. Even Christians are doing the same thing. Even certain Jews are making preparations for themselves, because you know that a trial and tribulation is approaching on the horizon. You know that there are certain possibilities that will occur, certain things that are going to affect you physically. You start putting together a certain plan or a strategy, and you prepare yourself for encountering that fitna. War itself is a fitna. Disease is a fitna. Famine is a fitna. All these are fitnas. But these things, as far as affecting the physicality is concerned, is not really a big deal. It's not a big deal when you now compare it to how it will affect your spiritual state. Because that's ultimately what lies at the end of our destination. The ultimate purpose of being here, the ultimate purpose of being existent, is not insofar as fulfillment of a physical, material, biological existence, wherein we deal with all these physical, material, biological turbulences and vicissitudes and trials and tribulations, but it is ultimately insofar as preserving and enduring spiritually and intellectually. That's where the real trial and tribulation takes place. The real tribulation is not a physical tribulation, because the body is just an extension of your being. The real entity that suffers is not the body. It is what is occupying that body. And that is now your intellectual and your spiritual state. It is a spiritual and intellectual trial. Lord Curzon, George Curzon, he was a British viceroy to India, and he was a member of the House of Commons. He made a statement when the Ottoman Caliphate was abolished. He said that now that we have destroyed the Caliphate by removing its moral compass, I'm just paraphrasing, you can find the real quote online, and people have actually debated that it's not a real thing. He didn't actually say it. I believe he actually said it, and there's evidence to show that he actually made that statement. Now that we have destroyed the Caliphate by removing its moral compass, which is Islam, we must ensure now that the Muslims never rise again. And he said, spiritually or intellectually. And some have paraphrased it as culturally or intellectually. It's essentially the same thing, because the cultural essence of Islam is not in its rite and rituals, it is in its spiritual essence. The reason why we obey the law, why we have faith in Allah, the whyness of it, which is a spiritual entity. It is the essence of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are the attack points. These are the pieces that they have tried to attack, and since then, even prior to that, and have continually been doing that, which has now reached a point where it has now intensified through all their channels and all their means, their mass media and all these devices that they produce, which we ignorantly and heedlessly even put our children in front of them. We expose our children to these things. We expose our children to their educational doctrines. We expose our children to their mass media and their production and all these film and media that they produce, that put them in a state of being brainwashed by an ideology that removes any sort of inner perspective, insight, that innocence that the child has insofar as a spiritual state of being, so that they now become just material entities and they fall in line. They become components, they become cogs and gears in this great machine that is geared towards establishing a material engineered paradise in this world. This is their prime agenda. This is their modus of arriving at enlightenment. So this is where the real trial and tribulation lies. This is what, if you want to now understand the primus of the Dajjal, what is his role? What is his purpose in fulfillment? What is he trying to achieve? It is to deceive humankind. But to deceive them with what? And to deceive them from what? It is to deceive humankind with a material reality. Because he himself is a material entity. He doesn't have a spiritual essence. He is a jasad. And his primus is to deceive humanity from a spiritual way of life, from cultivating your spiritual essence. Because ultimately now, when you pass on from this realm and you enter now into the barzakh and you go through this process of death, and then ultimately you are resurrected, the questioning that is being done to you on that day is not insofar as your materiality is concerned, is insofar as your spirituality is concerned, insofar as your righteousness and your piety. Was this the life you led? Or were you just distracted by the materiality around you? So let's look at now what is a trial and what is a tribulation, because what we're dealing with is trials and tribulations. And it's important to understand what these things mean, what these concepts mean, not just insofar as their dictionary definition of the words are concerned, but what do they mean in essence. We say that a trial is an effort. It is a struggle and an endeavor that you encounter, that you go through in your search for truth. Because for the human being, you are in a state of dhulma. This is the nature of this world. This world, which is the lowest of the low, al-ard, is a domain of dhulma. It is a domain in which there is darkness. There is no eternal light. There is no absolute light in this domain. Everything that is in this domain is temporal. It is fleeting. It passes. You see, the sun rises, you get light for a few hours, and then it goes away and you're in a state of darkness. And you have to then look for other means of light in order to see. That's as far as physicality is concerned. Now, insofar as your spirituality is concerned, it's the same thing. There is no absoluteness in this domain. And so you, as a spiritual being who has come from another realm, you're not a native to this realm. You're an alien in this realm, this earthly material realm. You are in a state of agitation. You're in a state of turbulence. Why? Because you don't have that absoluteness that you had, that you experienced in that other realm. You cannot find it here. And so this is what you're searching for. In order to find harmony and synchronicity within yourself, you are looking for the truth. Not just a truth. You're not just looking for facts. You're not just looking for, fleeting points of view that you can cling to, opinions and views. You are actually, in your eternal pursuit, you are looking for the truth. You're looking for haqiqah. You're not looking for waqi'iyah. Waqi'iyah is what is realistic, and this is where you have the facts. The facts are realistic. They only represent something that's real. What you want is the actual thing, right? So that your heart can cling to it and have certainty. So anything that impedes your passage to that goal becomes a trial on you. Because the truth, in its essence, it should be easy to find. The truth is manifest. The truth does not hide. It doesn't conceal itself. So that we say anything that makes it difficult then to find the truth becomes a trial on you. This affects your intellection. The trial affects your intellect. If your body cannot deal with a thing, it falls on your intellect, your mind, to find a way to deal with it. And that's your last line of defense. This is what you call the sadr now. The sadr of the human being includes the mind. It protects the soul. It protects what is inside, which is now the heart, wherein the being is contained. Your will, your consciousness is right there. It's contained inside the sadr. That's your last line of defense. And if your body cannot deal with the trial, then your intellect must now find a way in which it can resolve this. This is the crisis that you're encountering. If the intellect fails for whatever reason, lack of knowledge, lack of insight, lack of introspection, lack of intuition, unable to make sense of things, unable to interpret the right symbols, the right signs, because the being did not make an effort to increase itself in knowledge, to increase itself in understanding. So the intellect then fails, is unable to complete the task. Then the burden now falls on the heart because the last line of defense has fallen. Now it becomes a tribulation. So a tribulation is an adversity. It's a grief. It's a distress that one now has to endure under duress. It's what you're feeling now internally. We find that falsehood unleashes upon the being undue adversities, because that's the nature of falsehood. It's meant to divert you away from the truth. And anything that diverts you away from the truth diverts you away from your natural inclination, your fitrah, your natural state. Your natural state of being is your fitrah. The fitrah is not a component inside you. It is not an organ. It is the very nature of your being. So the very nature of your being is inclined towards seeking the real, the absolute, the truth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the divine presence. Falsehood, therefore, tries to divert you away from that. And so what falsehood ends up doing through that process is it unleashes upon you an undue adversity, undeserving grief, and prolonged distress. You see, it is a dhulm on you. Now that dhulm can be caused by an external entity, But more than that, it is caused by you allowing that dhulm to be caused on you. You are the one who allows adversity to fall on you. You are the one who allows trials and tribulations to fall on you because you did not take the necessary precautions as was given to you through the guidance that your Lord Almighty sent down to you. You did not pay heed. You did not pay attention to what He was telling you. And so now you have caused yourself grief. You have allowed the trial to break the line of defense and now hit the heart so that now it is a tribulation on you. And this happens particularly in the search for the truth. Since the truth in its inherent nature is supposed to bring you benefit, it's supposed to bring you joy, it's supposed to bring you felicity and contentment, and that brings you ease. So if you do not encounter the truth, you end up being in a state of tribulation. This is now what we want to look at. The trial and the tribulation. How does it affect the human being? Because we say that the Dajjal, in this case, as an example, one of those trials, his primus is the deceiver and the impostor. So his acts and their manifestations are meant to bring trial and tribulation. Both of these, trial and tribulation, are composed for the primary purpose of preventing you as the human being from arriving at the truth. Because he is the deceiver. He is the impostor. So what does he do? He deceives you and diverts your attention from the truth. How does he do that? He presents falsehood disguised as truth. He presents to you falsehood which now act as barriers and obstacles. These barriers and obstacles don't just prevent you. They don't just halt you in your step. What they do is they divert your attention. They pull you in a different way because you are a being who is in this world, who has come into this world, and you are in motion. So you're in a journey from your starting point, your initial point when you entered into this realm. You're in a journey until you reach your destination. And so these things that he puts in front of you, these are diverting you from that end destination. They're pulling you aside on the road. They're taking you down different pathways. You see, it's like the messenger who was sent with an important message by the king. The king sent him and said, you need to get this message across to the other side. If you don't, then our forces will perish. Our kingdom is going to crumble. And so the messenger sets out, and he knows that's his destination. He has to get there. But then he crosses through the market, and then he starts seeing all these things, these different wares and these different stalls. And then he sees entertainers over there, and he sees something else happening there. And there's a circus in town. And he says, well, I have enough time. I have till the end of the day. Why don't I just, take a little break? And so he does that, and he goes into the circus, and he goes there, and he goes to this other store, and he walks around the marketplace. And pretty soon, dusk has fallen, the sun has set, the day has passed. He hasn't fulfilled his task. And now the consequences of everything that is happening around him, the destruction of the empire, the destruction of the kingdom, everything now is due to his negligence, his heedlessness. He was deceived by all these distractions. This is what the Antichrist wants to do. This is his primus. This is his objective. It is to divert your attention from what you are meant to do. What you are sent into this world to do is meant to divert your attention now away from that. It doesn't matter to him. He's not going to earn anything from that. He is a temporal being. He doesn't have an afterlife in which he is going to be resurrected, in which his deeds are going to be measured. Because if he has an afterlife, that means he has got the potential to be resurrected and to be judged. And if he has the potential to be judged, then he also carries the potential to do either right or wrong. He has to have that decision by himself in order to be judged. And if he has the decision to do that, he can do wrong and he can also do good. He can do right and he can do wrong. And so if he then inclines towards doing right, then it defeats the purpose of who he is. He's no longer the Dajjal if he's a pious individual, because if he's a pious individual, he's not deceiving, he's not lying, he's not diverting others away from the truth, he's doing what is right. So he's no longer the Dajjal. And so he fails in his mission, which then renders the prophecy false. So how can we accept that? That is not true. We cannot accept that the prophecy would be false about the Antichrist's coming. So this is his premise. This is what he's going to do. So he's not going to be resurrected later on. He has a temporal state of being. It doesn't matter to him which pathway you take. All he's concerned with is in maintaining due course and fulfilling his objective. That's his only concern. And he will do it whichever way possible, however he is able to. But his success or failure does not rely on how well he executes his strategy. His success or failure is entirely dependent on whether you are deceived. His success as a deceiver depends on if he successfully deceives you, meaning whether or not you are successfully deceived. The barriers that he puts in front of you are directing you away from your fitrah. They are moving you away from your natural inclination. And so the act of deceiving is an act of diverting and deflecting from the right path. Because man's natural disposition is inherently designed to follow the right path, Siratul Mustaqim, towards the truth. So diverting you away from your natural disposition is a trial and a tribulation. How does it become an injustice unto yourself? How is it that you cause it unto yourself? ظَالِمٌ لِنَفْسِهِ. It entails doing other than fulfilling the intended purpose of one's creation. It becomes an injustice on account of your negligence and your heedlessness, in that you then subject yourself, directly contradicting your true disposition. Justice to the self is understood as complying to the natural disposition which was created for the sole purpose of submission to the Creator. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Imam al-Ghazali says, وَمَعْنَاهَا إِنَّ خَلَقْنَا الْقَلْبَ وَجَعَلْنَا النَّفْسَ مَرْكَبَهُ حَتَّى يُسَافِرُ إِلَيْهِ مِنَ الْعَالَمِ التُّرَابِ إِلَى أَعْلَى الْعِلِّيِّينَ. He says, it means we created the heart for the human being, and we gave it the soul as its vessel, so that it can journey upon the soul from this realm of materiality to the highest of the high. This is the path, this is the journey. You're in a state of journeying from this material realm to the highest of the high. Submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala therefore means submitting to His will, obeying His ordinance, so that you can navigate a safe path from this lowest of the low in which you have been sent to the highest of the high, which is His divine presence. Whereas now, the ideology that arises from the Dajjalic world, which is now the secular world, and this is what they want to establish, Novus Ordo Seclorum, the new secular world, or the new worldly order, the world order in which God is no longer a factor. It's not God who is governing. It's not God who is establishing the law. It is human being. We are going to make our own thing. This is what you call an engineered paradise. They don't want God's paradise. They want to do their own thing. And in their own thing, the very foundation of that, of secularism, the very foundation is built on the idea of do what thou will. Do whatever you desire. Meaning, it is your desires, your appetites, and those things, your emotions, these are the things that determine what you should do. Not your intellection, not your rationality. It is not the higher side, the higher dimension of your soul that determines how you should live your life. No, it is the lower, the animalistic, the predatory, the bestial dimension that determines how you should live, how you should conduct yourself in this domain. So we conclude on that to say that if man is deceived, then the Dajjal has succeeded in his created purpose. If you get deceived, if you allow yourself to be deceived, then the Dajjal succeeds. If the Dajjal fails, then the conclusion on that is that man has succeeded in his created purpose. Meaning, if you succeed in your created purpose, then you will ensure that you have won, you have gained victory, and that the Dajjal has failed in his purpose. He has been defeated. But he is only defeated if you succeed in your purpose. He's not defeated if you're going to make Facebook memes and post them. If you're going to do that triangle thing with the eye and that picture and the dollar bill and then this and that and then pull a theory from over there and a conspiracy from over there and you put it on Facebook or you make that video on YouTube, you think that that's going to defeat the Dajjal. Oh, I'm spreading the truth. We are defending the deen over here. We are bringing the truth out and we are exposing the Antichrist. That's not going to defeat the Dajjal. You need to wake up because you're in a state of delusion. One of my teachers says, you are in Disneyland. You are in Disneyland. You're in a state of delusion. If you think that these are the motions, these are the things, if you implement these kinds of strategies, you're going to expose the Dajjal, you're going to expose the deceiver. Good luck with that, akhi. Good luck with that. No. The only way you ensure his defeat is by ensuring your success, meaning you fulfill your created purpose. What was your created purpose? وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Except to serve and submit and serve to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will. He says, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. I'm going to place on this earth a khalifa. Which khalifa? He's not talking about Amirul Mu'mineen. No. He's talking about that individual who can govern himself, who can rise above this causal nexus, the ups and downs, the causes and effects, the subjectivities, the semantics, the particularities, and find unity. And to see the one in the many, to universalize, meaning to intellect. And this is why the first thing he does when he creates Adam alayhi salam, the human being, he gives the human being the ability to intellect by showing him how to name things, to abstract from reality, to universalize. If you've got apples here and oranges and bananas and all these things, you are able to name each of those objects and then you're able to universalize them to say these are fruits. You've given them a universal name and then you universalize that by adding on more particulars and say these are part of flora and fauna, they're part of plants and trees. And then you universalize that and you universalize that and you keep rising this hierarchy of intellection until you reach the ultimate unity, which is the unity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the essence of Tawheed. It is realizing the one distinct from the many, from the particularities. Your true prowess is in intellection. And I'm not talking about book intellection. I'm not talking about knowing the formulas and the facts and the theories. That's not intellection. So you can develop as many conspiracy theories as you like, as you want. Spend your time, all your hours doing that. It does not take you to enlightenment. The only thing that takes you to enlightenment is a spiritual intellection, where your heart is opened up and is accepting this nur from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is giving you insight and intuition. It is the only way for you to navigate the trials and tribulations. This is all the time we have for today. Subhanaka wa bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Rabbana taqabbal minna innaka anta as-sami'un alim wa tub alayna ya maulana innaka anta at-tawwabur rahim. برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. بارك الله فيكم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاكم الله خيرا.